Hello everyone. Today's episode is a very special episode. Mr. Within would like to suggest an experience he's had, and let us consider this as just the experience of one human being, but also a human experience. So it's a human being having this experience. Now, I want to communicate, guys, that it becomes harder to agree to things as observants. But it does not become harder to agree with the truth that is within yourself. So remember, when communication is getting to a point where very deep ideas are being projected, observe it like an audience that is not in the play. Because if you think you're in the play, you'll feel offended. These are simply ideology. And so let us take them as such. All right. So guys, what pretty much happened was that I sat down, and as I sat down, I've been very attentive to this moment of experience that I've been having. So I'm aware of my moment in ways that are unspeakable. But this does not mean that it's something that only one person has and others don't have. Everyone has a sense of unknown and known. But I am comfortable with both. Are you? And pretty much what happens, very gracefully of course, is that I notice and I close my eyes and I go into the state of focus that I am observing the movement of an idea which has some aspects of my memory plus something I'm thinking now, and I'm seeing this movement, and suddenly it's as if I look at the edge and I move beyond that sight and I'm just present. And so for a second, it's as if being present and breathing through a simultaneous presence that is here. Of course, guys, we can in one manner say this is imagination, but we can also explore imagination. And of course, we are acknowledging it as imagination, but let's see what it is. Let's see what the nature of such imagery is. Because we are here to learn from the symbols in which we are extracting meaning from. You are, in a sense, observing and seeing what is meaningful for you. Something you have not experienced might not be meaningful for you. You know, if you have not explored other cultures, someone with a new culture may seem different. You know, someone who comes from a new culture, you know, or comes from some culture, you know, that is new to you, you'll see. It's a phenomena in which you are aware of how you are making things distinct. And this gives you a sense of sincerity and awareness to really beginning to actually pay attention to this life. And so, of course, guys, the experience was pretty much a simultaneous knowing. I talk about simultaneous realities, multidimensionality, but of course, I am just talking about it. But I am also suggesting how one can become aware of thoughts. Just like how you have to move to get off a chair, you have to be observant of new ideas and new observances of what you are perceiving now, and understanding you have to move beyond that platform. So we want to not just increase our ideas and our range of ideas, but also increase our practicality and our state of being. So the intention of such communication is to become aware of your state of consciousness, not the language that is suggested based on the projection that you see. It is the observer that is crucial, the experiencer. And the experiencer was not the object of experience. There was something beyond the consideration of a limitation when there was an infinite ability to receive the limitless. What that means is before someone judges you, you can be judged as a convict and you can be judged as a saint, you know? And it's very important to see that you are more than how imagined you are, in a sense. You are more than imagery. So just like how our society and psychology is saying have a certain individual state, you know, you're not healthy if you're, you know, you know, if you're perceiving more than you're perceiving. Well, that is one interpretation, but some changes are not meant to be the same. You can't frame everyone, you can't put everyone in the same box when everyone is their own unique phenomenon. What that means is our systems of handling criminality is to collectively learn from them and to enhance the criminal's life, not to get rid of it. We need to give the profoundest and most accurate education, you know, to people who are not conscious of how they are conscious. Because you can have a choice to hurt others and play with physicality, or you can choose to observe it and make it your greatest designer's table and observe what the beauty of this manifestation is and why you're here. And in that there's a sincerity where you no longer become dependent to the externality. So some people at certain stages in their life, the reason they become compassionate is because they see they don't need to change the external world. The external world is changing as it is, and so are you. So there is a comfort with what you know and what you are, and what you know does not need to be constantly judged by what is out there. So your physicality does not need to be orchestrated by ideas or programmed by ideas that are being suggested by your community. You are an individual in your community. What that means is when a bunch of people are in the same room, that person who begins to speak begins to give shape to the moment. Do you see? And so when we are not aware of the imagination that is now, as we become aware of the imagination that was always here, we begin to see that thought is not just represented by form. The intelligence in the movement of your world is not just originating from you, and is not just originating from externality. What that means is we are multidimensional beings, and there's a simultaneous experience of reality we're always having. Anything you've done, you have given yourself a shape in which you have belonged to the spectrum, and that spectrum has been accessible to you. What that means is that kid who perhaps liked bears as a child and always wanted to see one might suddenly find himself in a moment where he's running away from a bear, but at the same time becomes aware, wow, that's a real bear, you know? And these are real legs, and he begins running faster. But pretty much, you begin to see what is serene in your presence, not the personality that is making a condition out of its environment. Existential presence means you thought you had to do something. Mr. Within is saying, be. Just be. Just be alive. Go in nature for a minute throughout your day, just for a few minutes, you know. And just become aware of the value of your moment. What's valuable to you? Is the objective fluctuation. I was cut off by a phone call. But I shall continue. My simultaneous experiences are real to me, and they don't need to be real to anyone else. They don't need to be even in the view or in the vision or in the awareness of others unless communicated for a reason. And it needs to be like this for everyone, because you need to see when you are learning from your internal experience, you really don't want too many distractions. And you wondered why that yogi and mystic in the Himalayas went and sat down in the cave. You know why? To see why he was depressed. To see why there was illusion when clarity was always here. Your intelligence cannot be judged, but a sense of self and a conception of self always can. And so man must understand the multidimensionality suggested through the emptiness of the presence of the mindful being. In the sense that you see, you don't need to hold that pen for your rest of your life to constantly write theories every day. But you definitely can, and if you love it, of course do it. You know? When you become aware of your breathing, you begin to see that consciousness has an ability to get an image from one sense of space and time it was in, and to have it simultaneously present. So how you're remembering your past is a simultaneous experience in some manner of suggestion. Okay? But if you become aware of that which In your breath, a treasure shall be revealed. And so as you breathe and observe life, the treasure would come in the form of a new vision. This is not to suggest that this vision needs to be a shape. It could be an observance. It could be that moment where you were like, wait a minute, maybe I got angry a bit too quickly. Maybe I just judged a bit too quickly. Oh my God, maybe I got angry at myself a bit too quickly. Maybe I judged myself too quickly. The love of life must extend to both self and other. If you're not loving yourself while you're loving other, it is as if you are not taking care of one branch of the tree. As if one branch of the tree is, under pressure by something, and you're just paying attention to one part of the tree. When of course growing the tree. And of course, guys, be playful. My experience suggested to me a presence that's simultaneous. I've known and I've been aware of this because this awareness has kept my individuality, not my individuality based on its amazing neurons has conceived this. Consciousness and thought is the phenomena where this biological apparatus is being kept by such subtler energies that are not physical. When you become aware of this, you begin to see bodies never just had to mean, hands and legs, but bodies meant bodies of experience, which your moment was always one. You see, it's new ways of thinking for your state of awareness is beyond. So imagine if you were sitting by your 5-year-old self and you were like, yo man, you're gonna go through so much, you would suddenly see that right now where you are, you can just contemplate and in a sense, receive the knowing that will be what you need for your next moment. What that means is when you trust life and when they say ask and you shall receive, and when you ask, you actually do receive, but you are receiving it in an existential allowance to have it. Not into exactly it should be there, but if you are aware of the existential allowance, if you're aware that you deserve to be who you are, life will gift you with the understanding you have. For illusion never had to be a blindfold you forgot to take off. Remember that which is breathing. Remember that which is alive. Remember that which is aware of thought. Remember that which in its remembrance dissolves into a novel moment, and this novelty is what is keeping in a static state of, how do I say it? It's as if everything is moving so fast that you see you always had an ability to be an experience of everything. So you thought you were only having one part of the experience of your day. You are actually the whole of it, but your state of consciousness requires to shift. And this shift occurs with a sense of cultivating a manner of being very honest and sincere with yourself. Guys, in many spiritual traditions, sincerity was the most important thing. What that means is many people in the New Age community are being introduced to very profound ideas, but they are not receiving them well. Because, not everyone, of course, not everyone, and this is of course a certain view. But in my view, it's as if you are not there to constantly see what your next Facebook update or has to say about like this page on consciousness or something. You need to become aware very quickly of the self-reflective nature of your perception and to take an existential responsibility that is seeing everything is coming internally. For when science is questioned how the eyes are receiving what they are, we are saying it just opens. And some men can't just say it just opens. That means we can't just accept truth in silence, and so we got to talk about it and create worlds of destruction that were never there, And no, guys, in your existential comfort, multidimensionality will open through your own experience, because you need to observe some moments where no one was around you. Literally, you were a child maybe, and you just saw something in nature that only you saw, And that's part of your contemplation, this deep self-contemplation act. So you need to really be aware and realize that regardless of how much you are judging yourself by your externality, by how you look or how you are or what standard or class you are, never degrade or put in a hierarchy who you are as a being. What you are as a being is beyond the spectrum for its creating it. You are an observance beyond that which is lost in objects. For you can never be lost in an object, because the objective reality is temporal. You can be lost in change, and that means you're always found in a sense, because there's nothing to be lost. Existential awareness means you are really seeing what existence means for you, and then letting your clearest vision of reality guide your next act. Not the clearest vision of reality of some other guy. Even though my suggestions are helpful, all the words ever spoken by Mr.Within are just a mirror of existence. They're here to show you how there is a certain intelligence within you that is hearing these words in the way that you are and perceiving the imagery within you as you are. And so the greatest catalyst was allowance. I hope this talk has served you, even though it was pretty much just about a simultaneous moment of experience that I had today. Actually, a minute ago before this talk was recorded. Once you have fully seen the ground, you shall then fully look up to see the sky. Much blessings and namaste.